I'm Ron Scalzo, the host of your favorite podcast, The Joy of Bob Ross, a happy little podcast. We're doing another Bob Ross rewatch here on Twitch alongside some very special guests. I'm going to introduce them shortly. First up, this is the guy I wanted. And they said, Ron, we'll give you Paris Hilton. And I said, no, I need some certified Bob Ross instructor royalty. And he's been featured on the podcast multiple times. We watched him paint Series 32 of The Joy of Painting on public television in Daytona Beach. He runs the Bob Ross Art Gallery and Workshop alongside his wife, Ada. Ladies and gentle Twitchers, the fabulous Nick Hankins.
Good evening and happy Veterans Day to our veterans. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick. You know what? This is the second time we're doing this, and I just feel like I need a band, right? Like we need some walk-on music for you,
Yeah.
right? I mean, all the fanfare, and then it's just like, good evening. Or maybe I need to dial it down to like Charlie Rose style and just, be very.
Well, I could do the David Letterman run across the thing.
Right, you're a big Letterman fan, so I feel like we need that. Like this is a talk show going on right now, right?
There you go.
Well, let's talk. Besides you not bringing a band along, that's okay. Let's state the obvious before we get into your painting, all the painting things going on in Nick Hankins' world. You're outerwear.
Yes.
Did you win one of these sweaters while I wasn't looking?
Flaunted. I have not flaunted. No, I am sans lighting.
That's okay. I said it's more of a classic cut.
Yes,
for an ugly Christmas sweater. Is that one also available at Spencer's and Spirit Halloween?
I would assume so. They don't let me out of the workshop to shop very much, so I'm going on word. We're on the street.
All right. You mentioned that you left it back at the workshop, and we need to remind people that you run the Bob Ross Art Gallery and Workshop. And being who you are, instead of just being like, I don't need the sweater, I'm just going to put on a shirt. You drove back to go get the sweater. I mean, if that's not a testimony to your commitment to the cause, I mean, I don't know what is.
They took the time to send it. I need to show my appreciation. Besides, you don't get to wear a garment this flattering very often.
It's true, and it is flattering on you. We're not giving that sweater away, unfortunately. Not this time around. Maybe next Christmas. But Nick, I last saw you down in Florida. It wasn't sweater weather, that's for sure. Nope. And just to give a little background for the people sleeping under a rock for the last couple of years, like you are, in addition to running the gallery and workshop, you basically painted some Series 32 Bob Ross paintings for us, basically finished the unfinished series. And I had the privilege and the joy of being down there to actually watch you do it and talk to the people that you worked with behind the scenes in public television. And it was a real treat. And then obviously the episodes aired. They're out there now in the wild. Do you have any memories of that experience that you can share? And is there any news going on with that as far as is there going to be more?
There are going to be more. In fact, we're going to pitch it next week at the Fall Marketplace for the American Public Television Conference. So 33 is under production, but yeah, 32 was just it's kind of a blur. There was a whole lot happened in a very concentrated amount of time, but we managed to pull it off. We had 7 of Bob's that he had prepared for the new series for 32 that he never got to film. And then I kind of filled it out with 6 of my own. And as you say, those are out in the wild now. They're airing on public television stations. And I think this month they're now on the Bob Ross 24/7 streaming channel. So
right on.
Yeah.
I don't have my TV guide in front of me. Otherwise, I would be able to shout that out. We'll get everybody's schedule posted on a graphic the next time we have you on. But it's out there. And another cool thing that you did, and coinciding with our first rewatch party that we did last month, was as part of Bobtoberfest. We had a whole series of events and people from all around the country posting on social media about how much they love Bob Ross and how much he means to
Yeah.
them. We know, and when we do this rewatch, I know we're going to hear about your love of Bob Ross as a younger person. But one of the cool things that you did was you did a painting class here on Twitch for Hurricane Helene relief, which is another thing. As someone who lived down in southern Tennessee for a big portion of your life, it was
Mhm.
something that was kind of personal to you.
Yeah, yeah, that it's near and dear. That was a tragedy that hit home. And since we're in Florida and we were unable to go physically help, we wanted to extend the helping hand in any way we could. My wife brainstormed the charity stream, and we put that into action as quickly as we could. And it's in addition to East Tennessee being hit, Western North Carolina, of course, was hit very
Yeah.
hard. And the town of Asheville is where I purchased my first Bob Ross painting kit back in 1993. So that was heartbreaking watching the building that held the little hobby shop where I bought that kit. Water was up to the ceiling in this little place. It was just completely destroyed, and the River Arts District in Asheville suffered a lot. There are a lot of artists over there that lost their supplies, lost their life's work, lost their studio. So we were able to make a supply donation to them. So I'm tickled we were able to pull that off on pretty short notice.
Yeah, and it's awesome to be able to use what you offer as a human being with your talent to help in that way. We all have our skill sets, and being able to kind of do what you do, and I love what you do, not just as a painter, but as somebody who carries on Bob's legacy in the type of person that Bob was. You kind of embody that. So we appreciate you being on with us, and we'll talk about the episode we're going to watch, and it's because of you that we are going to watch this episode. We'll get specific, but before we do, we want to have the CRI painting expert, but this is Twitch, and I'm a Twitch novice for the most part. So we always want to have somebody who's kind of active in the Twitch community watching a Bob Ross episode with us. It's someone we just met for the first time earlier today. She's a Twitch broadcaster, entertainer, and a gamer. Hello, AshSaidHi. Hi,
Hi.
AshSaidHi. How are
Hi.
you?
I'm well. How are you? It's so great to be here. And yeah, thank you to all the veterans for their service. Happy Veterans Day today. This is also Bobby. She's the co-star, and she decided to join us in the nick of time today. So
Is that really your cat's name? Is Bobby?
yes, her name
That's
is
Kismet, as
Bobby.
they call it.
I know. I was meant to be here today. Yeah. And she was definitely meant to be here and hang out and do this amazing rewatch of an incredible episode. Yeah.
Bobby, say happy little bush.
Meow meow,
All
happy
right, all
little
right.
bush.
Now, Ash, I was there, you were there, but we didn't meet together. TwitchCon San Diego. My first time there watching the Bob Ross team put together a whole bunch of big and small painting classes, but also getting a vibe of the San Diego Convention Center. I've never been to a proper con. I think I was at a Chiller Theater way back in the day. I met the guy from the Karate Kid, Kreese, Martin Cove. We hung out, we talked for a while, and Elvira. Anyway, that's another story for for another stream. But on top of meeting people who love Bob Ross and people who love Twitch, we both met somebody a little different, as Bob would say. I had the quote unquote privilege of interviewing Grasslord. Did you meet Grasslord at TwitchCon?
I did, and, I happened to pull up a photo of when I met Grasslord. So there I don't know if you could see it, the audience could see it there, but yeah, that's when I met Grasslord.
That's him.
Grasslord is very tall in person.
He's hard to miss. He's
Yeah,
hard to miss
very
and hard
hard
to
to miss.
understand.
Yes, but I did get knighted, which was really cool,
That was my next question. Yeah, and point being that I was not knighted by Grasslord, and I did not realize that was a thing that could happen. And when I got back to Nashville, I was a bit upset that I had not been knighted and confused and hurt. And Grasslord, if you're out there in the chat, hit me up, man. Like, we got to make that happen. I mean, we had a good conversation, and he's a delightful painter and personality, but for
Mhm.
some reason I wasn't knighted. In fact, I saw in the video that they removed his sword from the proceedings. I guess he was busy painting, but
It's true,
that's no
yeah,
excuse.
yeah. I
That's no
mean,
excuse.
Grasslord is super popular, so I can definitely see them inviting Grasslord back. Like, I'm sure you'll get your chance.
Okay. Well, I mean, have you ever talk to me about your relationship with Twitch? We want to talk about what's going on behind you there, but
Yeah.
before that, like you know, I introduced you as, you know, we were introduced to you as an ambassador for Twitch. So
Mhm. Mhm.
here's your minute to be an ambassador for Twitch. Like, what has the experience been like for you? And you know, give Nick and I, the sweater brothers, you know, some pro tips on the art of twitching, if you will.
Sure, sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Ash, and I've been broadcasting on Twitch since March of 2019. I play lots of retro games. I love to connect with people through conversation and the joy of retro gaming. And I became a Twitch partner in November 2020, and then a Twitch partner in March of 2021. And what being a Twitch ambassador means is you bleed purple, right? Like, you really love being on the platform. You're an advocate for it. You also help bring people opportunities. You help in, whatever that means for you. It can be whatever it means for you, but also I love helping educate people and letting them learn about all the different Twitch features, and they feature us in marketing, and we get to go to TwitchCon and host panels and do all kinds of really cool things. But I think the biggest thing is like the advocacy and like helping people learn about how to become better broadcasters on Twitch by sharing our own experiences and things that we learned. So I love being like a broadcaster on Twitch. It brought me so many friends and like amazing opportunities. And yeah, I get to share my collection. As you can see, I'm an avid gamer. I love playing video games and I collect a lot of games. I have a really big collection of retro games, and on my channel, I play like, Super Nintendo and Commodore Amiga and like PlayStation 1 and all kinds of stuff, DOS games. So, yeah, it's been really fun getting to know people and getting to, do really cool things here on Twitch, which includes this. Like, I would never have thought like I'd be able to get to talk to, an incredible Bob Ross, instructor, and just be here on the channel. So it really means a lot to me to be here. So thank you.
We appreciate you being here, and of course, the only thing missing is your Bob Ross ugly Christmas sweater. So I'll talk to my producers, and we'll make sure you get one. Just to,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
speaking of which, you know, talk to me. You're not just here as a representative for Twitch. You are a Bob Ross fan, and talk to me
Mhm.
a little bit about your history with Bob Ross.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I studied art when I was in college. I studied illustration and I did a lot of painting when I studied illustration at the School of Visual Arts. And I also made sure to bring some of my original Bob Ross paintbrushes from when I was in school and studying. And oh, yeah, Bobby's a fan of the brushes too. But yeah, like these brushes obviously are well loved, they were very well used. And um, I grew up watching Bob Ross, it was a very comforting show, and I really love that Bob did not make you feel nervous to make a mark on the canvas. Like, it was like, you make your mark, there's no mistakes, do it with confidence, and everything that you do, it's like your world. Like, there's, like, nothing that you could do where it's like, that wasn't supposed to be the way that it was. And I think that's extremely empowering because as an artist looking at a blank canvas, you can be like, "Oh my god, what's my next move?" And you're afraid to make a mistake, but you kind of learn through that confidence of, like, embracing anything that could be a mistake. So, and going with it because it's a happy accident. So I love that, and I never forgot those lessons. So, yeah.
Oh, that was very eloquent. Very eloquent indeed for a Twitcher for a woman with a cat sitting on her lap. That was a lovely speech. We're about to watch season 21, episode 12 of The Joy of Painting. It's called Bob's. Well, it's not called Bob's Lone Mountain, but it's just called Lone Mountain. Isn't Kevin Costner in that? No.
Maybe.
All right, this painting sounds like Kevin Costner should be starring in it, but it first aired November 21st, 1990. And now, Nick, another cool thing you did as part of last month's Bobtoberfest was you unveiled online your top 10 all-time favorite paintings, and this was number one. Tell us
Yeah.
why teenage Nick Hankins fell in love with this episode.
This one was it's so high contrast, graphically appealing. It's very memorable. It's very striking. The colors are beautiful. The composition's beautiful. The mountain may be one of the most complicated mountains that he paints in all of the Joy painting series. So I remember watching this one. I was 10, 11 years old, shortly after I bought a painting kit. And this was the very first painting that I tried to paint with my new Bob Ross supplies. And I kind of crashed and burned on the first try, but I had fun and kept coming back. And periodically I go back and paint this painting again, just because I love it. And it's fun to see how you grow. I've got like 3 or 4 versions of it from like 93, 95, 2011, and on and on.
Yeah, the supervising producer in me has me thinking next time you got to be painting this at the same time as Bob, and we need 3 eyes in our heads to see how Bob's doing and you're doing at the same time. If probably not many people in the world who could probably keep up with Bob, but I assume if anybody can, it's probably you.
I could at least eat the dust.
Close
Ash,
enough
do you have smell the dust?
Ash, what about you? Do you have a favorite Bob Ross episode, or at least like something that Bob paints that marvels you more than others?
Yeah, I love Bob's snowy scenes. Like, anytime Bob does a snowy scene, I feel like I wanna live in that little house that's covered under snow, or just go and, like, because it feels like it would be one of those, like, really serene, silent, beautiful, tranquil places. So, those are always my favorite.
We're in the chat. We're gonna do our best to answer your questions. We're gonna check out all your emotes and all that fun stuff. You could, or if you just want to just sit back with your iced tea on this very special Veterans Day episode and let Master Sergeant Ross hypnotize you, you can do that too. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel. I don't know what I'm pointing at, but if the channel's down here somewhere for the ad-free streams and to use your Bob Ross emotes, you can do that. We mentioned James Shapiro, the legend. He's our technical producer. He's hiding behind Bob's easel, and he's going to run the show. He's going to hit pause and rewind on the VCR if and when we ask him to. So, without further ado, here's The Joy of Painting, Season 21, Episode 12, Lone Mountain. It's the Bob Ross rewatch party. Let's roll it.
Hi, welcome back. I've got another little friend here today, and this is just a little baby Robin, and he's just the cutest little thing. And he's a little nervous about being here in the studio with all the lights. And he's probably 3 or 4 weeks old, but isn't he precious? Just a little baby one. I like these little robins because they have one of the nicest personalities of any birds going. Look at that. And probably in about another 3 or 4 weeks, he'll be ready to release and send back to the wild. So let's start out today and have him run all the colors across the screen.
Before we get into the painting, I just want to shout out this baby Robin here. We got to give him his props because 30 seconds in, this dude is unflappable. His cameras are rolling, the studio lights are on, the big Bob Ross hair nest is tempting him just inches away. And this little birdie is cool as a cucumber. I mean, I want to get your thoughts, especially Bobby's. Have you worked with animals on? Have you ever worked with animals? Like, I'm an animal lover. I'm not a painter, but I think this is one of the reasons that a lot of people love Bob Ross, and certainly I did growing up. Is that, it's a pussycat and a bird hanging out together. Bob's the pussycat and the bird is, he's on point.
I've never professionally worked with animals, but as y'all already can see and tell, Bobby is the star of the show. Like, so right. Yeah, like in a sense, yes. But oh my God, that Robin is just adorable. Bobby's keeping her eye on it though.
On alert.
I didn't even think of that. Nick, what about you? You're an animal lover. I met one of your pets back in the day.
Yeah. We now have his little brother. We lost Pip, but we now have Finn, who's a Scottish Terrier and related to Pip. So,
what about Series 33 with some sort of if you had to pick an animal to introduce What would Nick Hankins' animal be?
Considering that we filmed the show in Florida and it might be on short notice, it would probably I'd have to make friends with a lizard, I think.
All
They're
right.
in abundance down here, so
That's a good point. All right. So
yeah.
make a note, Nick and the lizard. All right, let's roll it back.
Yeah.
Nicest personalities of any birds going. Look at that. And probably in about another 3 or 4 weeks, he'll be ready to release and send back to the wild. So let's start out today and have him run all the colors across the screen that you need to paint along with us. While they're doing that, why don't you come on up here and let me show you what I've got done, and I'll set this little fella down. There you go, guy. You sit right there. I have my standard old 18 by 24 inch canvas, but you
I like
use
to think
whatever
that the baby
size
Robin
makes you.
is just sitting there out of frame watching Bob paint for the duration of the episode.
Taking notes.
It's a children's book waiting to be written.
Take a little bit of we'll use a little Indian yellow today. Very little. I just want to put at least a little hint of a yellow glow back here. I think I'll put a little mountain in. So I want just the least little amount of a glow, a yellowish glow coming out from behind the mountain. So very, very little of this Indian yellow. Little goes a long, long way, because it'll mix with a liquid white and it'll spread all over the canvas if you want it to. We just want a very small amount. Something about like that. All right. Now
I'm a
then,
fan of the
take a little touch.
ASMR brushstroke sounds.
It's so good.
That's a very pretty blue. Very, very shiny blue. Makes you happy to look at it. We'll go right up here at the top. Make our little crisscross strokes, our little X's. See there? Both sides of the brush, though. See? And you use both sides. Good. We'll start at the top, work all the way across, and then begin working downward in layers. In that way, automatically, it picks up the liquid white, and it gets lighter and lighter toward the horizon. And that's exactly what we're looking for in a landscape. Okay, maybe down to about like that. That's good enough for what we're going to do today. Now then, tell you what, we have that old blue on there. A little more phthalo blue. Reach right next door. Get a little bit of the phthalo green. So we have phthalo green.
What he just did right there. Can we pause it just a second? I have to say, what he did right there was really brave, because he's got a bunch of yellow in his sky, and then he went right into blue. And he starts painting blue at the top and bringing it down. And if you're not careful, they'll mix together and they'll turn green. And that would be terribly embarrassing on public television, I'd say. But that's just a testament to like how well Bob knew his equipment. He knew the paints. He knew what he could do with it, and he got the most out of it. So kudos to the OG there.
When Bob says a color is extremely strong, I've watched enough of these episodes now as the podcast host to see that pattern. I'm not a painter, obviously, Nick, but what does that mean? It doesn't mean it can lift a lot, obviously. Like, what are the dangers of a painting eating up your whole world, as Bob would put it?
Well, some colors are just the pigment in them. It's very saturated and it's very strong, and it will overpower other pigments. So like the blue that he's got there will consume that yellow, and it'll all turn green. And he says the same thing often when he puts alizarin crimson in the sky or in any place in the painting. He talks about the crimson. He'll say the blue, if he's making a lavender mixture, he'll pull out some crimson and pick up blue, and he'll say very little blue, because the blue is at least 100 times stronger than the crimson. So if you mix them in equal parts, it would basically still look blue. It's just that much more saturation in that pigment.
Awesome.
So that's probably why it's important that he's working on like a wet canvas, so that way you can have a little bit more control there. And I'm wondering also if the fact that he's working on oil versus like acrylic makes a difference there.
It does, yeah. So the oil stays wet, and he's got freedom to work into that for at least a day, maybe 2, if it's a good canvas. And he's in a place where the liquid white's not going to dry out. You can work on a painting and still blend into that liquid white for a long time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Put a little more phthalo blue. Reach right next door. Get a little bit of the phthalo green. So we have phthalo green and phthalo blue. And just sort of mix them together on the brush. Now, phthalo green is another color that's extremely strong. Be careful with it. Eat up your whole world in a heartbeat. Okay.
There you go.
And just pull
Yep.
from the outside in. I'm going to make
See,
a
I've
little
learned some
water
things.
down here, I think, today. So pull from the outside in.
I don't just wear the sweater.
More of the paint. Start on the other side. Do the same thing. Same exact thing. I'm going to leave a little area open right in there. So it looks like the light shining across the water when we're finished with the painting. Okay, time to wash the old brush. That's the fun part of this. That's the fun part.
Here comes the
Shake
catnip.
off the excess and just beat the devil out of it. Oh my goodness. There. Now with a clean brush, I'm just going to go gently across this entire water area.
Ash, do you have a favorite? You mentioned some earlier, but do you have a favorite Bob Ross quotable?
Oh yeah, no, definitely beat the devil out that brush. That's like
All right, so that was for you
hilarious.
then.
Yeah, that was for me.
Just want to blend them. Now be very careful when you're using blue and yellow in the same sky, or you'll end up with a brilliant green sky. Very careful. The only reason we're getting away with this because the liquid white was on here and we've diluted this yellow till it's almost nothing but liquid white up there. But it still has a little bit of yellowish flavor in it.
I feel like a brilliant green sky on Twitch is not inappropriate.
It's your
Right,
world.
right, Ash?
Yeah, it's definitely your world. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Nick's saying.
That's called laziness because I don't want to have to clean it again. All right. Tell you what.
Bob's about
Let's
working
do-
smarter, not harder, you know?
Nice.
Yeah, can you pause it for a second, James?
Today we're going to use some.
I know Bob is making a joke there, Nick, right? He's, about being a bit lazy, but obviously the beating of the brush, right? There's the entertainment effect. We all love to see that, but
Mhm.
can you talk about like when I've seen people paint, they have all these series of brushes handy, and it seems to me like you want to keep these brushes clean, and yet Bob, he says laziness, but he doesn't mean that, right? He means, I guess he's on a schedule, right? So for effectiveness, he's got to move forward, right?
He's got to keep moving. Yeah, he's got to plow ahead on these things. And, I mean, it's important to have a clean brush at certain points in the painting. Generally, when people are at the workshop and they're taking a class with us, and Bob kind of trains everybody to go wash your brush all the time. And I have to kind of stop people from washing it so frequently.
They want to do it, right?
They want to do it. They want to do the
I want to
thing.
hear that sound.
Exactly. And it's not necessary. And really, I kind of prefer it if they don't wash the brushes often because they're big brushes and they soak up a lot of paint thinner and it's hard to get it all back out of there. So, a wet brush can be trouble. And I would teach them to be very lazy. I just want them to wipe the brush out as much as possible. I'd rather it be a little dirty and very dry than totally clean and a little bit wet.
Future Rush in the chat says, I'm not sure when Bob started saying beat the devil out of it and laughing about his method of cleaning the brush, making a mess of the space. I'm not sure either. I mean, is that a fact? Yeah, I mean, I know season 1, Bob, his style was a little different, and season 2, we had the music behind him, but I don't have a record of, I know there's nerd sites out there that could probably tell us, like, the first time that he ever actually said beat the devil out of it, but you don't know off the top of your head, do you, Nick? You're disqualified.
Off the top of my head. Yeah, I'm out of here. It's cataloged somewhere.
You lost your Christmas sweater privileges. Okay, we can roll it back.
Let's go right up in here and make a big decision. Maybe our mountain lives right about there. Get a little more of the color. It comes out maybe soon. Whatever. Just put in. I'm just going to put the top of the mountain in right now.
Now, Nick, what if I
just
put my palette knife up there, and I'm like,
mountain.
no, I didn't want it over there. I wanted it over there. Is it too late? I mean, we know we can fix almost anything, but that seems, considering the color combinations up there, it seems near impossible. Yes or no?
No, it's possible. Yeah, you might have to go in a slightly different direction, but you can make it work. You
Okay.
might have
So
a dark cloud there suddenly, and
right, you have to kind of improvise a little bit. It can't, right? That's part of the beauty of this is the oil paints allow you to kind of maneuver things in that regards, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. You can change things on the fly very quickly, and you might add some characters to your story that you didn't plan on originally. But that's why you don't make mistakes. That's why they're happy accidents. You can fix it. I tell everybody in the classes that unless your canvas is in flames, we can probably fix it.
You've been doing this for a while. Has that ever happened? The flames?
So far, no. The day that
All right.
happens might be the day I walk out,
The
though.
night is young. The night is young. Okay.
Yeah.
And sort of let it just bounce so that it breaks. But see what's happening? Just let it sort of break going in that direction. Right up in here. Something like so. Wherever. I'm going to grab the small knife now. We're going to use a small knife, come right along in here, and just put an indication of some shadow back in here. There we are. Maybe I'll put just the least little touch more blue into my shadow. Ooh, that's nice. Like that better. Like that better. We'll blue it up a little. Stands out better. There. See, it makes the indication of a big old square looking mountain up there. Now then, right in here, just using titanium white, I'm just gonna touch, just touch. Just let it just sort of bounce and play along there. Maybe we'll have a big old glacier here in this one. Just
Nick,
sort of touch
I
it.
know I've asked you this before, and
Gently.
he's already well past it, but the mixing of the colors, right? He doesn't, again, we just let him go. But when you're teaching these classes,
like a little shadow area here and there.
you kind of have to count on your students to kind of mix the way you tell them to mix. You're not looking over their shoulder every time. And
Yeah,
that can be challenging, no?
Okay, just keep working
a
right
little.
down.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's mixture is going to be a little
Go.
different,
Think
but
about a
that's the
little
beauty.
glacier though that lives right here in this
I think.
mountain.
I give them measurements and I relate them to like food. Like you need an
The
M&M of
cooking
this,
analogies.
or a chocolate chip of that, and they get pretty close.
All right, and we'll just begin blending that together very gently. Now, over here on the other side, we had a little phthalo blue in that one. On this side, I'm going to use straight titanium white. There. And just let it go in the opposite direction. But I want this to be brighter, more to the white than the other side, so that you can distinctly tell that there's a light side and a dark side to this. A little shadow back here. Look at that. Now then, just sort of apply that like that. Now we can go back to clean and very, very dry brush and grab it and lift it, following the angles, something like so. And that'll sort of bring it all
I have a
together.
question, actually.
And that's one of the nicest, easiest ways of
I don't know if it's probably better to pause it, but this is not something you can achieve with a brush. Like, you've got to use the palette knife to kind of get these like shapes or these angles like Bob is doing, right? Like, it would be very difficult to achieve this with a brush.
Yeah, it would probably come off too soft and a little too muddled and mixed together and muted. So the nice thing about using the palette knife, and then the paint, Bob's paint is formulated to be much thicker than most of the, off the shelf oil paint that you're going to pick up at an art store. So he's using this big broad palette knife and that thick paint combination, and then it's a matter of adjusting pressure in and out. So he'll either, when he started there, he's really grinding the paint into the canvas. Sometimes you'll hear him say, try to pretend you're pushing the paint through the canvas and make it squeeze out the back. And then when he comes in to put his shadow on, it's just a feather light touch. He's barely touching it. So that paint just kind of bumps along the grain of the canvas and it grabs what it wants. And that thick paint then tears apart. So you get a lot of look without a lot of work.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that because I noticed like there is always, every time I watch an episode, there is a lot of paint on the palette. So I was wondering if that was a part of the technique, the fact that, there's a lot of paint there. Because yeah, whenever I buy paint, especially because I mostly work in acrylic, I'm not using this much paint.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to use nearly as much acrylic, I would imagine.
Yeah. And it's almost like sculpture work. When you start to watch him do what he's doing, it's like it's very sculptural.
It really is. Yeah, that's the perfect word to describe it too, because he's a magician with that knife. And if you can balance that, excuse me, if you can balance that with the pressure, oh, it's incredible what you can do with that knife.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nick,
Thanks for
Ron
answering my
Scalzo from
question.
Ron Scalzo from the Bob Ross Inquirer here.
Oh, recognized.
The dry brushing, there are certain things as a painting novice that I've witnessed on the show and that I've actually experienced having done this once or twice. And
Yeah.
when he puts the highlights on trees, when he puts the reflections in the water, and what he's doing this with this dry brush, which is kind of similar to the reflections, is changing the texture of the paint. It almost looks like, and
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure he's going to do this again in this painting. Talk about the magic of that and what doing that with the dry brush really, what sort of impact it has on the painting.
Yeah, so that's another one of these great assets of having really thick, dry paint. If you tried to do what he just did there at the base of the mountain with traditional oil paint, I mean, it would smear immediately and it would blend in with that yellow underneath and it would blend with the blue and you'd have mud basically. The When he puts that firm paint on the canvas and he puts it on there thick enough with that knife, it kind of stands up and fights the brush a little bit. But when you whisper across it, it I guess diffuses is the word. It just diffuses the look. So it's going to change the shape and kind of smear it slightly. And it's you could call it the magic or the trickery of the technique, um, relying on the big brush with a lot of bristles, the palette knife, and then the thick paint. It's stacking all these little elements together and making them harmonious. But yeah, he does it for the reflections. He does it for the base of the mountains. Anytime he wants something to look, um, early on in his evolving career, there he used to call it hypnotizing, which is a term that he got from his mentor. And that's a good word for it. He hypnotizes the paint and makes it look like it's in a trance, I guess. So it's interesting.
Felly Windrunner says Bob once said that palette is big, so it's easier to mix colors, plenty of space and easier. Smaller palette will result in little space to mix colors, as he sometimes does multiple times.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
It is.
He really knows his stuff.
Yeah.
All right. And now back to the joy of painting.
Right in there. And maybe,
You ever use doer?
since this is our world,
when
we
you-
can
when
do
you
anything
paint?
we want to.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Maybe there's a little
Still don't
more.
know what that
So
means.
you can
That off
see
once in a
right
while.
in there. Just a little, though. We don't want a lot. Just a little. There. With our good, clean, dry brush, gently, gently, gently blend that back together.
There he goes. Come on,
Just
dude.
blend it back together.
I love that.
You can make good
Yeah.
noises.
I just want to dry brush
Highlight
everything when I
colors.
watch him do that.
Just
Just walk around the
basically
house.
black and white. And a little bit of our shadow color can sneak right back in there. All right. And we need a little touch of color right on that little rascal. We don't want him left out. Okay. And maybe then you have to start making big decisions here.
Alfalfa or buckwheat?
Where does all these little peaks and valleys and all those things live in your world? Maybe that comes right on around. I don't know. Yeah, do. There it is. See? Just make a decision, drop it in.
Doesn't matter.
But you can make
finish
some
in
of
his
the most
sentences.
gorgeous mountains doing this. And at home, you have unlimited time.
You watch this
my
before.
head.
Do a fantastic job. This old mean director here, she has no sense of humor if I go over 30 minutes. There we go.
All right, Bob. We got a sense of humor.
So
You can go as long as
But
you
at
want.
home, you can do this. Just take your time and make beautiful, beautiful things. Send me some photographs
Your
of what
leisure,
you're doing.
Bob.
I love to see them. And every once in a while, we put them all together and we make a little board and show it on TV of what people are painting all over the country. And it's unbelievable what people are doing. I get a lot of letters from young friends that are doing some of the most gorgeous paintings. Absolutely spectacular. There.
I'm gonna guess we're about halfway through this painting, and again, one of the other things I love as just a fan is that right now, like, the star of the painting, this lone mountain, is just floating in air. It's unattached to anything, and it looks a little odd, even though there's some cool things going on. But you just know Bob's gonna connect the dots, and the excitement as a non-painter is just sitting back and watching him do it with ease.
Mm-hmm. And he loved that. He loved knowing that everybody was like tense and nervous.
Or any combination in between.
No, but I'm not nervous.
Gotta have that dark.
Yeah, like I have complete confidence in his abilities to finish this.
Oh, yeah.
Dark black color against the gray. That's what really makes this stand out. There we are. And no, this is not any particular mountain, to be honest. I'm just sort of making it up. But maybe where you live, there is a mountain around that you'd like to paint. And this will show you how to do it. Just sort of look at the mountain that's in your area and using these basic principles.
Now, did you take Bob's advice here, Nick? Did you go and look at a mountain where you lived and got out there and got it done?
Yeah, I did. It's funny. I didn't pay attention to stuff as much as I did until I started painting.
There we are.
Really makes you start seeing
right there, though, and a little highlight right above it. And maybe there's another little shadow that comes right down like that.
I love how the form is being built with the shadow and then the lightness on top of the dark paint, and it starts to create the dimension.
You can do anything that you believe you can do. And I know you can do this, so certainly you know it. There.
It's wild to see something that three-dimensional just, oh, there it is. Pops right out.
Wasn't that a cute little robin on the beginning of the show? I like that little rascal. Robins have some of the nicest personalities of any of the birds I've met. And I've raised a lot of little birds, and they may be my favorite. There's a lot of exotic birds around that you can look at. But sometimes the little common birds that we see every day and we take for granted,
or squirrel for that matter,
can be the most beautiful. If you just take the
now, I want to shout out a different sort of art here, Nick. And really, this is for both of you guys, because like twitching is similar. He's talking about a bird right now. He's not talking about what he's doing. He's just going to town with the brush, and he's got this whole monologue going on about the bird. Now, there's an art in that, like the multitasking involved with not just continuing the painting, but knowing that, hey, I don't need to talk about the bird for more than 5 seconds because I got to get back to this painting. Like there's about a minute of bird talk in this point, and I love it. I like he's still going, and he knows he's got the clock going. I see on a little, where we are just at about the halfway point. Like Nick, like talk about the challenge of doing that. Like as someone who's got to be in front of a camera, be personable, and talk about something that has nothing to do with painting for little bits and pieces in between the painting, and being able to pull that off like so eloquently.
It's kind of tough, really, because it's like the left brain and the right brain have to engage at the same time. And I'm going to show my age here, but if you've ever driven like a 5-speed manual transmission, and you kind of miss a gear and it goes, that's what I feel like my brain does when I try to talk and paint and go off the subject. I'm grinding gears up there and trying to save the pieces.
I feel like that's what I'm dealing with now, trying to look at the chat with one eye and watch Bob paint at the same time. Ash, talk about that as someone who, like you have to do the same. You're doing the same. You got some fans here in the chat I'm looking at who are shouting you out. How do you juggle that on Twitch? Bob style.
It can be, it can be very difficult. I have 4 monitors on my desk, and every one of them has chat somewhere on the monitor. So I don't, and even then, sometimes I still miss messages, but the balancing act of playing a game, making sure the stream is not crashing, making sure that I'm paying attention and reading chat and making sure, like, Bobby's okay or whatever. Yeah, it's an art. And just like with Bob Ross, it comes with practice, right? We have to practice every day. We have to go back and watch our VODs. We have to interact with our chat more and more and kind of get a feel for, what do you do when there's a lull, or what do you do when there's a very hype moment? So it takes a lot of practice. And yeah, it definitely came over time.
Awesome. Well, we got Paragon Thor in the chat saying he wants to take a class that covers season 3, episode 10. I'm going to put you on the spot, Nick. Do you know what episode that is?
3,
He'll tell us.
episode 10.
Season 3, episode 10. This is like Bob Ross trivia.
It's either building, or is it the campfire with the cowboy?
I think it's the campfire. We'll wait. Let's roll this backwards.
Yeah.
Let's roll this back. Distant hills.
There's no birds around. Told her just to wait a day or two. Within probably a week, she called back and she says, I can't keep enough food in the house to keep them all going.
He's
in
still
just a
talking
matter
about
of maybe a week, they had found her feeder. And
Rusty Banana King says, wow, this dude is good.
Around.
Yeah,
and now we've got Walt interested in it.
Isn't he, though?
And he's out with his video camera. They've become his special little critters now. So we have another convert. Okay. Enough yak-yakking. I'll get on my soapbox about the little birds.
Legendary producer James Shapiro confirms it is
a very
campfire,
effective
Nick.
little mountain.
It was
You change it to match
Send that guy a Christmas
you want
sweater.
to have in your painting. We just want to show you how to make one. All right, let's take black. We'll use some of this Prussian blue. Shoot, I'm going to grab some of this phthalo green.
There he goes again.
There we are. Maybe a little Van Dyke brown.
All the colors he's mixing.
There we
Just
are.
throw
Maybe
them all in.
Alizarin crimson. I like that. That gives it a nice flavor.
If you were to throw them all in, like what is that color?
You kind of wind up with like a
fan brush.
bluish lavender gray.
Back here at the
We need a section name.
The mountain mix.
Little trees, little friendly trees. There. Now we want to save a little mist between the trees and the mountain. Otherwise, the trees will just sort of disappear right into the mountain color. So we want to save a little misty area in there. It's very important, very valuable. It's like a good friend. Take care of it. Take care of it. There.
Nick, do you have a favorite brush?
Okay. Maybe we have some trees living all the way back somewhere in here. Wherever you want.
Probably fan brush, if I'm forced to choose. You can do so much with it.
Over here. Something like that.
Which was your favorite? Did you have a favorite?
Yeah, I think it's the fan brush.
Sort of tapping downward.
They're great. They're great.
A little downward tap. Maybe I'll have some big trees over there. That's sounds like a good idea.
I know people love these taps, but let me tell you, when you're trying to pull a Bob clip for a podcast episode, sometimes that can be obtrusive.
Of course, if you change your mind, then you got to go back and put them in. But that's all right. Just
loving the tapping in the chat.
I love that noise.
Firmly to help create that illusion of mist. And I'm going to lift upward a little bit. And anything you don't like down here, you can just blend it in.
Sounds like a choo-choo train's coming.
Right.
You're a train fan yourself, as we know. I like that sound better, honestly.
Like in the big mountains.
It's a nice sound at night.
Tell you what. Take a little of that same color. Save a little misty area. And maybe if we said we was going to have
I told you,
water,
I love this.
Pull straight down.
Yeah, there you go, Ron.
With the same color. Same exact color. There we go.
Catnip for Bobby.
Just pull it down. Take another brush that doesn't have so much paint on it. Now go gently across. And that quick, we have instant reflections. Instant reflections. You can take a fan brush with a little bit of light color, white, whatever, lift upward, and it'll look like little tree trunks far away. Or you can do it like this and lift upward, and see it'll make another plane there. Looks like a little ridge or something there. Creates another plane in your painting. And the more planes that you have in your painting, usually the more depth and distance you'll have in it. That's a sneaky
right.
little way, though, of
Give
getting
me
an
some
extra plane
expertise here, Nick.
without
What does he
working
mean
for
by
it.
that? Planes in your painting. He's
Well,
not talking
not
about a
working much.
Boeing 737.
Maybe we're doing a little bit.
Yeah, all right. So he's just talking about laying in distance and depth in the painting. So if you take the mountain, actually, let's back up. Start with the sky. The sky would be one plane. The mountain would be on a different plane. The trees that he just painted are on a different plane. So each of these layers that he adds, it makes that perspective go back in the distance. That's how so basically he's saying that's how we create distance. We're just stacking things in layers, and then we're separating them with light or dark. And as long as you've got something to contrast with, you can keep adding those layers and new planes in the painting, which is what he just stuck in there with those little wispy things, little
Yeah, I
doers.
love like the background
There
and
you
then the
go.
foreground. Like I love that it went from the mountain and the trees were just like floating in space to as soon as he started pulling down, like now it exists together. Like now they have a relationship. So I
Yeah,
love
suddenly
watching
it's
that
anchored and
develop.
everything's okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's take a little bit of that same dark color. I want a little peninsula right here. Just drop it in. And underneath it, pull down. And once again, we have a little reflection. So all there is to it. Take that same color, go into a little bit of the cad yellow and yellow ochre, Indian yellow, and it'll make a nice green. We can put some highlights right there on that. There they are. See there? There we go. Just however many you want. And it comes back to about like that. Let's take a little dark sienna, a little white, mix it together, make it a brownish color. And let's go back in here and firmly lay in the indication of a little bit of land that lives way back here. I'm rubbing it quite firmly into the canvas because I don't want the color to stand out too bright. Just enough so you can see there's a little dirt back here. There we are. There we are.
I would be so afraid that I would make it too bright by not mixing the right ratio of
A
colors.
little touch of the liquid white. I want to add a little touch of phthalo blue to it, not much.
My fear is that
Just
I'd
enough.
scrape through the canvas. And I know I know from experience, Nick, that you can dig in pretty significantly on these canvases and they won't budge, right?
Yeah, they're tough.
Right.
Yeah, it's so good that
Okay,
they
we gotta
might.
start making some big
I
old
didn't know about
decisions
this. This might be worth pausing. Actually, this is kind of an
here.
easy one. So
There
one of
is
Bob's really good friends, Carolyn,
maybe
who took care of him and was very close friends. She was talking about being in the studio and watching Bob, and they would set up the rig and they'd get everything set, and they would mic up. Of course, they'd mic up Bob with the lavalier microphone, and then they had other microphones around the studio, and they had one like on the easel directly behind the canvas, and that's why those brush strokes are so loud. But I was thinking, because you can hear the pressure when he's digging that knife and it goes zoop, 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 across the grain of the canvas. Thinking back on that now, that's so important because you can learn a lot about how to paint just from the noise that the tool is making on the canvas. And when I think back to that now, like I guess that was like, so I probably I was aware of that, but I don't think it really hit me till now how much information you can glean just by the noise that's making. Like if there's a lot of pressure, you can hear it. If he's grazing it, you can hear it. Even when he's and tapping the canvas, he's hitting it pretty hard, and you can hear it. It translates So that was like a valuable little learning tool that they inserted. And I don't even know if they intended that to be the purpose, but kind of nice.
So don't just look, listen.
Paint with your ear.
Comes right
Unless you're
down.
Van Gogh, like
Something like
I was waiting for a Van
wherever
Gogh joke
you
there.
decide. And underneath it, once again, we need a reflection. If you ever do a painting and it looks like the land up here is floating in the air, chances are you forgot the reflections. And it'll give the indication that it's floating above the water instead of in
Marlik
the
von
water.
Barian asks, what's been the hardest technique to teach new painters in this style?
The land down into the water.
Hmm. Probably making the paint break on the mountain, like we watched him do with the snow. It takes a little. You have to let yourself learn the proper pressure by just doing it and observing. If it's and an analogy I use a lot in class is I say, okay, I mean, number one, we don't make mistakes, but here's the thing: your hand needs to feel what's too much pressure. When does the paint kind of smash together and not break and not make all that pretty texture and turn to mud? You need to know where that one end of the stop is, and then by the same token, I want them to do a couple of strokes where they don't touch it enough to get all the paint on the canvas that they want, so they know where too light is. And if you know where too hard and too light is, your central nervous system is automatically going to start finding what's correct. But you have to give yourself permission to do it too hard and to do it too soft. So I refer to that as the Goldilocks. We got to go through the Goldilocks steps. You got to know where too soft and too much or whatever to find just right. But you have to give yourself time to process where that is.
I like your analogy booklet. Goldilocks, M&Ms. You're right in my wheelhouse. All right, let's roll it back. Simple is right in my wheelhouse.
I'm just wiping off any excess paint that's on there. A little bit of the cad yellow, yellow ochre, Indian yellow. Once in a while, a little touch of the bright red. Not too much. It'll eat up your whole world. And maybe right back here we put a little highlight.
Call that a strong color. Yes,
Eats up your whole world out here. See, you need that dark where this won't show.
Learning.
Absolutely won't show. Because light against light gives you nothing.
Pretty against all
dark
that cool.
against dark gives you absolutely nothing. There we go. Pull it down. Once again, back to that dark sienna. This dark sienna with a little white in it. Just to put the indication here. Some little something. A little bit of the liquid white. There we go. Now then, let's build us a happy little tree or two, or three.
There we go.
4.
Here comes the happy.
That might be my
tree.
favorite moment in the episode is the look on his face when he's
sly look.
3 or 4.
See how that stands out against that little bit of yellow back there?
Tree's going to put you in tonight.
So good.
What it looks like on the bottom, because we'll separate that later. There's
Is it
the other
okay
one.
if I call out something that I see in chat?
Of course.
Down here, you can just do
Yeah.
anything that you want to do.
So Brother Bill is talking about how Bob's mission was to show that you don't have to be an artistic prodigy to create art. And I think it's extremely important to call out that art is practice, it's labor, you're not, people always think that you're born with this talent, but I think people who are good at art or have a passion for it, they do it because they want to practice. Like, it's muscle memory, and you can be good at art through that practice. Like, you don't have to feel like you're born with some kind of like a magical ability or whatever. It comes from practice. And I really wanted to highlight that because it's so important to be friends with failure and not feel scared to like make a mistake and want to experiment with mixing the paint and putting marks on the canvas without worrying whether it was right or wrong. So I think that was a really nice sentiment.
Right
It's
on.
something Bob says often, on the episodes, Song and Dance, pointing out his "Blessed by Michelangelo at Birth" line that he says often, and I think that's why we're here. It's the approachability to it and the attitude about it is something that everybody can relate to. I think in all facets of their creativity, not just in painting.
Absolutely, 100%, yeah. I mean, even when you think about being a better broadcaster here on Twitch, that didn't come from, like, somebody just turning the camera on and then, like, having the gift for gab, right? Like,
Mhm.
you practice it, and you have conversation with people, and you fail at something, and then you learn, you watch your VOD, and you get better, so I agree.
If you love it, do it.
Mhm, mhm.
You decide how many trees live in your world. All right. Just want to darken that all in real good there. Okay. Maybe. You're right. There's another one. There. Just back and forth, though. There. Isn't that a nice way, though, to make some very effective little evergreens? Tell you what, let's put one or two on the other side. We don't want it left down. There it is. Choom. There it comes.
You got to make
Once
those
again,
noises, right, Nick?
Got to do it.
color against that yellow.
Do it.
That's why it's in there. Just for the contrast. Maybe this one here has got a little tilt on him. There. There we are. Let's go back to our old brush. It has a dark color in it. The old 2-inch brush. Maybe this comes right down. Right on down. There we are. Swing.
Now, Nick, you could speak to this. Like, he's coming down to the wire here. Like, I know he's painted this before. He's a pro. But talk about the timing here of he's got to wrap
Well,
this. He's got to turn to us and tell us what he tells us at the end. But he still wants to finish, and I'm sure
so
he's going to do. Yeah, he's going to do things. I'm
you see
like, all
that
right, you're
movie?
done, right?
You see that movie just made there. He went from tapping to suddenly he's just swiping that dark color on there. That's purely a product of he looked
He
over
knows.
and Annette
Yeah.
held up the thing. You got 2 minutes, Bob. Let's go. So he automatically knows how to switch into that other gear and get it done.
Have you experienced that in your when you've been on the clock in those moments that man I gotta wrap this?
Oh yeah, yeah. And that last minute, man, it goes fast. Think okay, we're
Right.
cruising, we're in good shape. I'm gonna finish up and suck in half the oxygen in the room and finish it out. But we've done okay so far.
Huh.
Wanted to. Yeah, we'll go back into our yellows, yellow ochre,
there.
Indian, yeah, little cad yellow, and begin picking out
They
the little
actually painted
highlights here,
with
the
the
little
shoe
grassy
on.
areas that live right along. If you work with this a little bit, you'll be surprised at the effects you can make with a big old 2-inch brush. There. Maybe here and there, there's a little bush, just sort of hangs out of here.
He's like he doesn't know when to quit.
There he is. But pay attention to the lay of the land here. You don't want to just throw these in at random. The lay of the land is very, very important. Very important. It'll make or break your painting. There.
That's true.
Over here on the other side.
Another
Can't
Bob
leave it.
Rossism, lay of the land. Certainly not something he invented, but he says it a lot, and it's something as a novice I don't quite grasp. I'm sure in the way that you do. Can you pontificate,
Yeah.
Mr. Hankins?
Yeah, it really is just the angle that he's holding the brush. So got it pretty flat, so he's making pretty flat ground. If he turned his brush this way, it would look like a slope or a cliffside, with ivy growing down or something. So if you turn it this way, you're going to be making very straight up level marks. The marks that he's making here are very much conformed to the lay of the land, the flat part of the land. And if he starts to pitch it up, he'll make a little hill, and he pitches it up on the other side and it makes another little hill. So it's all in how you twist or turn that brush. That's the lay of the land. That's what he's
Right
talking
on.
about.
Yeah. All right. I'm glad I asked that question because I did not know that.
Got left here. So with that, I'm going to put just an indication of a trunk here and there. There we go. Let's take a fan brush with a little bit of green on it, put some highlights on these trees. We'll about have a finished painting once we've done that. Think about where the light's coming from. Our mountain indicates it's coming from the right. So that's where we want emphasis on the trees too. There we are. Little highlight on there. And on this one, don't want much on that one.
Another one of my favorite parts.
See, and this one's in the foreground. You have to make those decisions. A little on this one, and we'll call this whole painting finished. Hope you've enjoyed this one. It'll certainly teach you how to use the tools, and I think you'll find it very, very rewarding. From all of us, I'd like to wish you happy painting, and God bless, my friend.
Now, Nick, you said you did this as a teenager, and you quote unquote said you crashed and burned. Can you, not to bring up that disappointing moment, but what does that mean?
Well,
like what? And then how did you get back on the horse? I guess is my question before we let you guys go. And thanks for making it to the end with us. We appreciate it. Everyone in the chat as well.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't so much that I didn't care for the painting. I was actually kind of impressed with what I did. It wasn't very good, but to me it was. It looked like something. It looked like mountains, but no, I had paint all over me. I had paint on my mom and dad's carpet. I had stuff every. It was unsightly. It was a little unsightly. People that know me now wouldn't believe that, but.
And now it's your number one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that
that's
was
my
it.
favorite.
You've taken it full circle, Nick Hankins. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Ash. Said hi. Ash, where can we follow you online outside of Twitch?
Oh, I am at AshSaidHi everywhere. So that's Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, everywhere at AshSaidHi.
All the things. Well, thanks so much for
All the
joining us,
things.
and thanks for your insight and the lovely backdrop of plushies, as some people have shouted out in the chat room. Quite a display. I hope you keep that organized and it keeps growing in a positive way. You can follow us on Facebook at The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross, and on Instagram at Bob Ross_The Joy of Painting for more info on upcoming Bob Ross events and giveaways. Find out more about The Joy of Bob Ross, a happy little podcast, at bobross.com/podcast, and check out all the episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and of course, here on Twitch. We're back with another rewatch next month. Probably snow in the forecast, maybe some goat mugs with more special guests, more giveaways, maybe another sweater. Tell us what episode you want us to watch here in the chat. You can email us at podcast@bobross.com, or you can call us at 866-FANBRUSH. That is a real phone number. I'm Ron Scalzo, reminding you that you're only limited by your imagination, so let go of your anxiety, have fun, practice, and you too can be an almighty painter. Happy streaming and good game, my friends.